Hey guys, welcome back to Ray's Create Cards. I'm so glad you're here with me. I'm Ray Henderson, a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in East Tennessee. Welcome. If this is your first time or if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for your support. Recently, I was wanting to do an easel card. You know, some of these classic fun folds, they're classics because they're so much fun to revisit, use different colors and different elements and all that kind of thing. And truth be told, I was trying to come up with an idea. I have a grandson, Hayden. Hi, Hayden, if you're watching, or if mom and dad are watching, I'll give him a shout out. And he lives in Texas. In April, he is going to turn 13. And I asked him recently what he would like on his card, and all he could tell me was blues and greens. You know, he really didn't know what else to offer, and I get it. I mean, if you walked up to me on the street and said, what would you want in a card? I would probably tell you whatever you want to put, okay? To be very honest, because for someone to take the trouble to make me a card, or even if it's a Hallmark card, to take the trouble to pick it out, spend your hard-earned money on it, and mail it to me, that's such a blessing too, isn't it? So anyway, this is what I came up with. And the birds came from On the Horizon. I'm thinking that is still current, but I'm not positive. And then the rest of this was oceanfront. It may or may not be retired, guys. I don't know. There are some things I really love and I keep in my collection. And so this is what I came up with, doing that vertical fun fold. And I don't know if you can see, I put a little bit of Wink of Stella for the ocean. And I've told you all this before, you might not have heard me. I recently bought Hero Art's sand embossing powder. And so I had already stamped it in the smoky slate for the sand. But I went back in with my Versamark pen and just kind of scribbled around and put the powder on. I was very surprised I didn't totally mess it up. The Happy Birthday came from a Gina K Designs stamp set. And it's a stamp set that has like the ocean waves and stuff in it. And so I also used that sand embossing powder there. And then on the inside, look at that. So, for a young man who is going to be an official teenager, I feel like it wasn't too much over the top. It wasn't childish, but it, you know, maybe because I know he has been to the beach before living in Texas. And maybe this will also kind of help bring back some good memories for him. For our card that we are going to do today, I am going to be using the translucent florals, the stamps, the dies, and the paper that coordinates with it, and that is called Delightful Floral. Now, all of this is in the online exclusives. It is not in a catalog. If you don't normally go online, or if you have a demonstrator who puts orders in for you like I do for some of my customers, the ordering number for the Designer Series paper is 162356. Let me grab my pack. Now, it's well loved. I've cut into it hard and heavy. But just to if you've not been online and you've not seen it, and yes, they're double-sided papers. They are gorgeous. And then you have some with bigger flowers, some with smaller flowers. Let's see what all I can. There's Pretty Peacock on that side. And I know it's in cellophane. I know it's crinkling. But look at that. Isn't that pretty? And I'm going to be using a little bit of that fresh freesia, like that watercolor wash look. But isn't that pretty? It's beautiful. You can use it for male or female. I think this pack is genius. It is currently $12.50. I don't know if the price is going to go up. Guys, I got to see the PDF of the new online catalog that will be going live to you, I think, let me see, May 2nd, May 1st. It's different. There are going to be some people who really love the catalog. There are going to be some people who really hate it. They did manage to pull off a fresh approach. I personally like the cover of the new catalog, and I don't have mine yet. I did not go to On Stage. But there are demonstrators out there on YouTube that did go to On Stage that have the physical copy. They're not allowed to show you what's on the inside, but you can at least see the cover and you'll see what I'm talking about. So, having said that, there is a last chance sale that will start April the 9th. It'll be public to everybody, demonstrators, customers. I am not going to bother to email that out. I am not going to bother to go over all of that with you, and here's why. A lot, and I mean a lot, of what was in the mini catalog that's fixing to retire. It's still current, but it is going to retire. A lot of that is going to move to the online exclusives. Whether the prices will go up, I don't know. I will give you a heads up and tell you, like cardstock packs, the colored cardstock anyway, is going to increase by $1.50 per pack in the new catalog. And I hate that they're having to do it. I know they hate they're having to do it. But, you know, when the price of raw materials and shipping and all that goes up, the only thing a business can do to stay viable is compensate for that, right? They can't afford to give it away. You can't afford to give your stuff away, right? It is what it is. It's sad. Hopefully, maybe one day, if we all pray hard enough, our economy will get better. In the meantime, there have been a few little price increases, and truth be told, because of Stampin' Up's history, they have probably put off doing these price increases as long as they possibly could. I know the last time they did a shipping increase, it had been years since they had increased their shipping costs. They were actually subsidizing the shipping costs to ship products to you, and they did that for as long as they could. And you know, like I said, nobody can afford to just give it away, right? Okay. All right, so I wanted to show you, for anybody who may be new to the world of card making, because it won't take but just a second, I wanted to show you how I make 2 card bases at one time, 1 score, 1 cut, 2 bases. And our design today is just going to use our traditional 8.5 by 5.5 card base, okay? So when I get ready to start, unless I'm making a 10th fold card, I go to 4 1/4. If you're making a 10th fold card, you want to cut at 4 1/4 and score at 5.5. In which case, I would do my scoring first and then my cut, and there would be my 2 bases. But for the traditional card, we are going to score this at 4 1/4. And I hardly ever see demonstrators do this in their videos, and I don't know why. It's almost like they just cut one card base and put the other piece aside. And you don't have to do that. At this point, now we're going to go to 5.5, and I'm not straight. I could tell I wasn't straight. And when I get ready to cut, I look here and I look here. That's important for 2 reasons. If you don't quite have it all the way straight, you're going to see that it's off. The other thing is, I had a pack of cardstock the other day that was just not cut right. The manufacturer didn't cut it right. I don't know how, don't know why. I had a hard time with that pack because about halfway down the side, it started getting less and less. It was a whole 1/8 of an inch off at the bottom. Since I was mass producing cards for the card ministry, that was an extra challenge. But God helped me with it, and, you know, we got it done. So, but that's the reason why you want to look all the way from the top to the bottom. If you're getting wonky cuts, that's what you're not doing. And when you've got it the long way to do the score like we just did, once again, just get in the habit of looking to make sure that is good and straight. Now we're going to cut this. Now I have 2 card bases. That's really important if you're going to be mass producing. It just truly is. Now, because it's already scored at 4 1/4, we need one more score. We're going to go to 2 1/8. I'm looking at a distance here, so I need to go to 2 1/8 and give that another score. And we're done. We shouldn't need the cutter again because I did go ahead and pre-cut my mats and all that kind of thing. So, traditional card base, folding it in half. We're going to do that. Ooh, thought I had lost my bone folder there for a minute. So, we're just going to do this real quick. That poor little thing. I didn't glue it down. I didn't tape it down underneath, so it's going to slide. And then, this other score, you're just going to fold it this way. This way. You're also going to fold it toward the middle of the card. I don't know how to, not sure what descriptive term I should use to make that easy for you. I started to fold it back because we have a lot of fun folds that would have folded back. But you're going to fold it forward and fold it forward, okay? And this is going to be your basic template right here, okay? All right, let's go ahead and we'll decorate part of the inside of the card. So what I have done for mine, I have gone with the colors that are in this beautiful DSP, and I have pulled out Blackberry Bliss, and this is cut at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I'll get it out here in a minute. And we're just going to glue that in, and then we're going to put our DSP layer on top. And the DSP is just a 4 by 5 1/4. But I really wanted a mat. You don't have to mat yours if you decide to do this. You don't. You absolutely could just layer in a piece of your designer series paper and be done with it. A lot of times I want to just go ahead and give it that little extra something, but you are absolutely free to leave that out. And yes, I've got skinny little borders. If you don't like those skinny little borders, you are free to reconfigure the sizes that you want in yours. Okay, on the outside, we have got 2 pieces of designer series paper. And let's see, this is cut at 1 7/8 by 5 1/4, 2 of those. And then my little mat is 2 inches by 5 3/8. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and put this right on top of that layer, and we'll get those put down. But other than just a little bit of cutting and getting your materials all put together, this card is so easy to do. It's really easy. Super easy. I think I could knock that over just a little bit. There we go. Now let's get this one. That on there. I'm using my Barely Art glue right now, but I will be bringing my Tombow in here in a few minutes. There are some techniques that Tombow excels at. But if you don't have this DSP, I do hope you get it. It is gorgeous. And it's multi-directional. Doesn't matter how you cut it. It's going to look good either way you go. Now, at this point, I am going to go ahead and glue these on these 2 little panels here in the front. And again, you're just going to have that narrow little border. And again, you can eliminate the matting. You know, if you're trying to be very judicial in the use of your cardstock and stretching it, absolutely, you could just put down the designer series paper. On Hayden's card, I used, and you might not have even been able to see it, I used some retired designer series paper. It's, I don't know, I want to say it's probably about 3 years old. Waves of Inspiration, which is a stamp set that we've had for a couple, 3 years. When it first launched, it had this beautiful designer series paper that came with it. And I still have a bunch of it. So that's what I used. And I used Early Espresso for the background to kind of tie it in with the sand and to give a little bit of difference to the rest of the card. But I use Lost Lagoon under here, even though this color was Coastal Cabana. Coastal Cabana and Lost Lagoon, if you haven't figured that out yet, they complement each other very nicely. And I use that early espresso once again under here, and so you can kind of see that peeking out back there as well. So I did use 2 different colors of cardstock. I liked how it came out. You do you. All right, at this point, I'm going to lay this to the side. You saw that I had a little piece of vellum here. Vellum is being discontinued by Stampin' Up! In the new catalog. When the new catalog launches, you will not be able to buy the vellum anymore. Some people won't touch it. Some people have no use for it. They're intimidated by it, or it's just not part of how they design a card. But if you are one of those who do enjoy designing a card that way, stock up on it, you know. At least get you a couple of packs that will do you for a while. Now, I didn't bother in the past always using anti-static powder on my vellum, but vellum is pretty staticky, and I love my Rabbit Hole Designs powder tool. Love it. Best I've used ever. And I am letting my glue bottle sit here and get clogged up. Forgot to put the pin back in it. It's good. Now, I'm taking that largest flower stamp from the translucent florals. And yes, this stamp set and vellum go together like butter and bread. I think so. So I'm going to use some Berry Burst. I thought about trying it with the Blackberry Bliss because there were hints of that, but I felt like that was just too dark. Now, y'all know vellum is not a porous surface. Normally, if you're going to stamp on vellum, you want to use something like Stays-On or something that will dry to the surface, because our water-based dye inks tend to stay wet for a very long time. I've actually stamped on vellum with one of our inks, left it overnight, came back the next morning, it's still smeared. However, there is a workaround, and you've probably guessed since I use that anti-static powder. We are simply going to take clear embossing powder and put over that and heat set it. And that is how you can get away with using your colored inks. Now, alternatively, you could use alcohol markers on your stamp. You could. It will stain your stamp. The alcohol markers will. If that doesn't bother you, go for it. Because it would dry very quickly. You've seen a lot of people take and put alcohol markers on the backs. I've done it before. I've done videos where I've showed that. And that works really, really well because alcohol dries really quick. I'm going to close that up before I get my heat tool going. And I picked this up with my reverse tweezers. Don't know what I'd do without them, or how I managed to craft before I started to get them, because they're so invaluable. They're very intuitive. A lot of people say, oh, I just don't think I could get used to it. It doesn't take 5 minutes once you get them, and you start using them in your hand to get so used to it. So I've let this heat up, and yes, I've got my heat tool from Stampin' Up! On number 2. People tell you don't do that. Use number 1. Hit it real quick, get it done, and get the heat away from your vellum. I have found that works the best for me. And so, I don't know if I can hold this where you can see it. You may not be able to see it. See it getting shiny? I hope you can see that in the camera. So I'm just going to hit this. Get all that melted very quickly. And I'm looking to see if I got it all. It doesn't look to me like I did. I didn't. I didn't quite have the angle of the heat going right. Now I've got it. Alright, sorry about the noise, guys. All right, there we go. Let me see if I can tilt that. And hopefully, isn't that pretty? It's so pretty. The ink is now dry. We're going to cool that off a little bit. And we're going to die cut this out ever so quickly. Yep, it's nice and cool. But yeah, see, Stampin' Up's vellum takes very well to heat embossing. Other companies have good quality of vellum out there. Yes, they do. However, maybe not at the good price that Stampin' Up has it. So, yours truly is absolutely going to be getting at least a couple of packs. Now, I don't go through a whole lot of vellum. I don't use it just, non-stop. But, all right, I'm trying to line this up, making sure I'm where I need to be. I'm going to take a big chunk of Post-it note tape and run that through my mini-me. Of course, I have the handle on the wrong side for me. That's okay. We're going to make it work. And y'all know I use my light gray plate. I don't use my white platform plate that is recommended. I don't because I have a hard time die cutting. You got to stagger your plates and hold your mouth right and all that good stuff, And I'm just not, I'm for the easy button. And if I know an easier way to do something, I will pass that on to you. And I have no problems getting anything to die cut by changing that up a little bit. All right, let me get this off. And peel that off. You don't have to worry about any kind of tape peeling anything off because you just heat embossed. And there it is, still nice and luscious. Okay, I'm going to move that scrap out of the way. And I'm going to move this out of the way. I will probably need it again here in a little bit. Now, one thing I did, and this is bugging me, guys. I got to clean my stamp. I do. It's sitting there saying, I'm going to get ya. And it will, because it knows me. All right, we're getting clean. We can put that over to the side. And I die cut another flower, just plain, out of basic white cardstock right here. Because I want you to see by itself, yeah, it's pretty, but it's not really going to pop for you. But when you put it on white cardstock, now look how it pops. Isn't that neat? This is where Tombow shines. How many of you knew that there was a wide end on the other end? I literally had somebody in class one day figure that out, and they had used Tombow for I don't know how long. They did not know that there was another end. Because we all always just use this end, and you think, that's just decoration. Nope, there's that wide end. Comes in so handy for this. Just take and just kind of put a smooth layer. Put your die cut on top. You're not going to see the glue. That's magic Tombow when you can put it in a thin layer. However, it will set up on you pretty quick. And this is really trying to set up already. And I may have to go back and add just a little bit more glue. There we go. Got it? Look at that. Isn't that nice? So there's workarounds for everything. Now I'm going to very carefully spray my silicone mat here. I'm so excited. I got my waffle flower silicone mat for the Misty. I haven't used it yet. I'd like to use it for the first time ever with you guys so that you can see all pretty and clean and nice before it gets used and stained and all that good stuff that comes from all the love that we'll be giving it. So, all right, so I've got this. At this point, this is what I'm going to put for my focal point on the front of the card. And my Blackberry Bliss is 2 by 5 3/8. Okay. No. Let me get my, I just blanked out. It is 2 3/4 by 4 inches. Now, I came up with that measurement because I use my rectangle, deckled rectangle dies on my designer series paper. And I use number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4th smallest, 5th largest, however you want to count it. So I cut that out. And that's also in that designer series paper. And at this point, I do want to use my Barely Art glue because it won't. I have had Tombow wrinkle my thinner designer series paper. Not very often, but it only takes a time or two of something like that happening. And we get real gun shy real quick, don't we? Because it's aggravating and such a waste to have to start over because you got a line of glue bulging up underneath. Okay. Now I'm going to take, and we are going to die cut the stem. When I get the right case here, there is a die in here for your stem. There is also a stamp for the stem. You can stamp it. You can die cut it, whichever way you want to go. I decided I wanted to die cut, and I decided that because I need a scrap. I didn't have a scrap piece out. Let me find one here in my bag of goodies. We're going to die cut this out real quick. Doesn't take much. And then we'll be ready to go. And I'm going to show you, in playing around and designing this card, I did the same thing with the leaves that we just did with the flower. I did the heat embossing. I used the Parakeet Party, which is one of the greens. Pretty Peacock is also one of the greens, or green blues, whatever you want to call it. But then when I got ready, and I'll show them to you here in a second, to actually put them on the front of the card, I felt like they were loud and proud for the designer series paper. I felt like the designer series paper had muted a little bit on that Parakeet Party and that Pretty Peacock. So I wasn't happy with how they looked. And I really didn't want to just stamp it on there. Yes, I could have, and it would have looked okay. It would have. But I really didn't want to do that. And what I could have done, but I always have scraps, guys, so I don't worry about it too much. What I could have done is I could have very easily cut that stem out of the back of this before gluing this on, and nobody would have been the wiser. And at this point, I'm going to take my little stem. I'm going to put a little bit of glue there on the end and attach it to the back of my flower. Just like so. I don't want it up too high. I wanted as much of that stem as I could get. Alright, am I on there? I'm on there. I'm on there. Kind of want that more in the middle of where that dents in. Where that little V is. There we go. I'm going to let that sit there for just a second. Get this out of the way. Yeah, let me grab. So, on the vellum, I also did a white backing after I stamped in the Parakeet Party, heat embossed it with the clear. And then I took a sponge dauber of Pretty Peacock and just kind of went over it to kind of bring a little bit of that color in. Because if you look, oh my heavens, if you look real close, you can see the Pretty Peacock just coming in a little bit to that Parakeet Party. Isn't that pretty? But look at what I was seeing when I got ready to put them on my focal point. Do you see how I felt like they were just way too bright? And maybe I'm wrong. You might like this, but I just wasn't happy. And so I decided no leaves. Not going to put any on there. We're just going to do the flower. So we're going to go ahead and get this glued on. I don't have enough glue on there? I do? I don't? No, I really don't. So, I don't know if I can use Barely Art glue in there or not. Well, we're fixing to find out. Because I want that to stay down. I want that to be a uniform, single, solid piece. Okay. That's staying together, and I'm not seeing any glue under there at all. Okay. Awesome. So awesome. And now let's get this put together. I'm going to put a little glue over where that stem is, and I'm just barely touching this enough to where it will glue down. And I think I'm going to tilt mine just a little bit and just very gently press that in, because this is Barely Art glue. It will dry matte and not sticky. Those are two properties about it that I really, really like. Now, somewhere, my pen. Now, there's a couple other things we've got to do here. And was I prepared? No. I'm looking for a scrap of white that is big enough to make our mechanism to hold our piece on the front. And I'm trying to see if this scrap here, I think this will work. Because nobody's going to see how it pops up on the front. So, I'm going to go to 1.5. One and a half by 1.5. And let's see, can I get another 1.5? Oh, I can. Shoot, guys, I chop my stuff up until I can't use it anymore. And if it's got stuff that I changed my mind about on the back side, don't care, flip it over. Although that don't look right. Did I do that at 1.5? I did. Did I do this one at 1.5? I didn't. All right. So I've got a couple of squares here that are 1.5 by 1.5. You can make yours 2 inches. You can make it less. Whatever feels good to you. And then I'm going to come into the 3/4 of an inch, which is right halfway. Hopefully it won't move too much. These don't have to be perfect, okay? This is one time you don't have to hold your mouth right. So I'm coming in at 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to score them in half. Now we have our little mechanism. Wasn't that easy? You could have used a little scrap of your cardstock. You could have used, well, maybe not the DSP because it is kind of thin. We're going to fold these in half, and I'm still going to go ahead and use a bone folder. And I'll show you how I do mine. I'm going to lay this down. And I decided I did want it kind of in the middle of a card. You'll notice I kind of did that with Hayden's. Kind of split the difference on the top and the bottom and on the 2 sides. I'm kind of a traditionalist sometimes when it comes to that. So, all right, you're going to take and put glue just on one side of this. And to the best of your ability, you're going to line it up pretty much in the middle. Now, what I did, and I'll hold it up for you here in just a second. What I did is I brought it all the way to the edge of the colored mat. You don't want it on the fold, but you want it very close to the fold. And so by doing that, I think that will work out really well. And put glue on this. And it doesn't matter, you know, which side you put your glue on, as long as the fold is coming into the middle. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if they're perfectly lined up with each other. You could be off 1/8 of an inch and it's not going to matter. They're not going to see it. They're going to be oohing and ahhing over all the rest of the card. And I'm trying to get that, I guess I'll use my fingers. It bothers me when there is a buildup. Okay, now at this point, you can go ahead and put your glue right here. Your little rectangles, squares, however you made them, doesn't matter. I kind of like the rectangle because I feel like there's more surface area to grip that vertical focal point. And you're going to lay it on there, hopefully straight. And let me just kind of, I'm checking to see if I'm way off or not. I'm just going to hold it for a second. However, always double check to see if any glue seeped out. If any glue seeped out, go ahead and get it now, because you don't want it to be there and you not know it's there and then it glues it down. The only part this focal piece is going to be glued to on the front are those little tabs that you just made. And again, you've got leeway with how big you make them, how small you make them, doesn't matter. It's all good. And then on the inside, and I'm going to bring my Misty in because I already have my stamp pre-mounted. And this comes from Translucent Florals, wishing you all the happiness in the world. And I'm going to get that in the very corner here, just like so. And I'm going to bring back in my Berry Burst. We're going to stamp that very quickly. I left my foam mat in there. I told you guys here the other day, you're not supposed to if you're using red rubber. That's the rule, right? I'm just very careful. I'm very careful. And I'm so careful, I didn't get that in there. And I think I want to stamp that. Do I want to stamp that again? That actually looks really good. I don't see any areas that are skimpy. So again, you know, when you're using a stamping platform, please just be gentle. Photopolymer, red rubber, doesn't matter. It's better to have to re-ink 2 or even 3 times to get a good crisp image than it is to try to smush it on there and then it distorts your lettering. And believe me, guys, I'm preaching to myself too, because I've done it. I can't tell you how many times. So we all do it. Just a reminder. All right, at this point, I'm going to bring this in. I'm going to lay this over here. Now, what I did when I came up with my measurement for this, I kind of looked to see how much space I had at the top and the bottom. And then I tried to mimic that so it was, at least on these 3 sides, it was going to be pretty close, pleasing to the eye. And all that good stuff. So, put this down. And where am I at here? Pretty good. Am I straight? I always have to pick it up, guys. I don't know about you, but sometimes I have to pick my stuff up to look at it to see if I'm straight. All right. Now, let's get ready. You've got to have your little mechanism over here so that when they stand their card up, it's a stopgap for that easel. You know, nothing new. So I have got a strip here out of basic white that I cut 1 inch by 5 1/4. While I was looking for scraps that might be good enough for that, big enough for that, I found this one. And I thought, well, okay, that's pretty much the right length. Not quite the right width, but that's okay because I am looking at that. Is that cut straight? Was that a straight strip or is it just me? Ooh, I don't know. Let me get my trimmer and see if it's my eyes or this is a scrap I'm just not going to be able to use. So let me see if this is lining up straight all the way down. It is on that side. And is that straight? Okay, I'm guessing it's just me. Okay, guys. Sorry, overlook me. Before I do that, I do want to stamp the word celebrate, hopefully close to the middle here. So let's get out our Berry Burst one more time. I love Berry Burst. I love that color. Love it. I know it's not everybody's favorite, but it was one of mine, and I was so happy they brought it back. So happy. Did I get it? Yeah, it's kind of, sort of in the middle. One other thing I wanted to do. So this little stamp here that is like the promise of flowers, maybe. Maybe it's some kind of a wild grass. I do know I want to stamp that off. I didn't want it on there real heavy, but I just thought it might be a real cute little something to kind of help fill that in. So, and I meant to stamp it off and I didn't, so I won't stamp it off on this side. All right, that was the whole idea behind doing that, was to stamp that off. So if you ink it up and stamp it off one time, you would have a little lighter image, but that's okay. It'll work. It'll work. Put that away, and I'm going to take, now how, okay, I think I'll be all right, but you know what? I'm going to tear a little piece off. I'm going to tear it off because I want to make real sure that I don't have anything sticking out the backside. And I'm only doing this to give this a little more something. You don't have to do this. Honestly, if I was really concerned, I would have cut another one the exact same size and maybe two more the exact same size and done that. So, let me get my pen back in my glue. I don't think I need that glue. We're almost there, guys. We'll be done here in just a minute. You know me. I don't mind my photopolymer staining. We're used to it, right? I have heard that Simon Hurley inks do not stain. I've never tried any of his inks. But, yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. Okay, let me give y'all a heads up. I am not taking time to go through to show y'all all this last chance stuff, okay? I'm not. Because there are other people out there that have already done a really good job, and the one who comes to mind, and I watched her video, and I'm giving a shout out to Lisa Freeman. She did an excellent job of going through the mini catalog and our current annual catalog to tell you what was leaving, what was going to be on sale, how much it was going to be on sale, what the final cost was going to be. I mean, she hit it out of the park. I'm not going to try to replicate it. Why? Somebody else has already done it. I don't mind giving credit where credit is due. Please do go check out her channel. It'll be a real eye-opener. Because honestly, I had not noticed that vellum was going away until I watched her video. So, alright guys, I am bringing in, you've seen me use this before, my Pear Blossom Press. This stuff, it's double thick, so you may not want to use it every time you need a foam tape. You see what it says there? And it truly is repositionable for a full half hour. And then in 24 hours, it's permanent. I've never had this let me down in all the times I've used it. Let me grab my workhorse scissors. I don't even want to use my snips on this. And it is, how wide is this? It tells you. It is half an inch. And I'm just going to kind of, see, I can get away with doing this because this stuff is repositionable. And it is a dream to use on shaker cards and stuff. Now I'm going to cut this a little bit short. Doesn't have to go all the way to the end. And then I'm going to run another line right next to it, because the piece I have stamped on is 1 inch wide and these are 1/2 inch wide. I know I'm good to go. So, I love this stuff. I don't use it every time I want to add some lift. But for something like this, and it being double thick, isn't that neat? Look at that. I love it. And who doesn't like repositionable? Y'all know I use Gina K's tape runner because hers is also repositionable for at least a few seconds. Now I'm going to peel this off. And we're going to stick that down. I'll show you the guidelines I used for positioning this. And then we're going to be done. Now I'll bring back Hayden's card as well. A little bit of ink right there. Something. Alright, so I went to the edge of my designer series paper so that once this is down, that Blackberry Bliss is still poking out. So from here to here to here. And I can't get my head right in the camera. I'm trying to make sure getting that lined up. All right, let me see what I got here. A little tiny bit of that designer series paper is sticking out. Tiny bit. I'm going to have to bring this closer to me, guys. It's got to be done right. If I'm off camera, I am so sorry, but I have to bring this up to where I can get this lined up. And I'm still seeing a little bit of that designer series paper. Oops. See, told you, repositionable. How cool is that? If it wasn't, I'd be in a mess. Because normally when you use foam tapes or dimensionals and you put that down, honey, it's down, right? All right, let me turn it this way. Because I'm trying to look at it from this direction. I need to see what I'm doing right here on the edge. Hallelujah. That's going to work. Oh my goodness. There we go. Look at that. Now you can't see any of that designer series paper sticking out. What do you think? Isn't that sweet? I love this. Again, if you want to add bling, if you want to do leaves, if you wanted to use an embossing folder on that designer series paper before you put everything down. And no, you don't have to use vellum. You don't have to heat emboss. This stamp set is so beautiful. Let me show you if you don't have this set, and I've already got it on a block. Let me take this Berry Burst, and we're just going to stamp it on paper straight up so you can see why I love that so much. Isn't that gorgeous? And if you're dealing with a color where you feel like you might need to stamp it off, look at that. I'm loving it. This was such a unique stamp set. When it became available for us to pre-order it last year, I snagged it super quick. I was so afraid it was going to sell out. And this DSP is some of my favorite. I don't tend to like darker toned designer series paper. Unless it's toward the fall or maybe Christmas when some of that's kind of expected and traditional, it's okay then. Otherwise, no, I don't care for it at all. All right, guys, I'm going to bring this in. I'm going to bring Hayden's card in. Now, I can show you when they stand it up. Of course, they're going to be seeing this view, not the top view. I don't know. I don't really know how else to show you. But let me lay them down. And you can pretend you're seeing it propped up to where you're looking straight on at it. But what do you guys think? Aren't they precious? The sky's the limit on how you can design yours. So until we meet again, guys, y'all be safe. Know that you're loved. God is good all the time. Bye.